Hello, good evening, and welcome to Transruptic. We are going to have some fun tonight. This program is all about helping you become a more powerful entrepreneur. Our mission is that we inspire, educate, and support people of color to become great entrepreneurs by transforming and disrupting how entrepreneurs are started and created. I'm your host, Stephen Jackson, and joining me tonight is one of the most talented business owners I ever had the pleasure of meeting and working with. Is Natalie Price of Priceless Consulting. And Natalie, come on, introduce yourself. Let the world know who you are and what you do.
Well, hello, good people. I'm Natalie Price of Priceless Consulting and co-founder of Led by Us. And by trade, I am a career and business strategist, and I help professionals and solopreneurs navigate through this constant new world of disruption that we see. But we do this with clarity, we do this with confidence, and we mint together a plan that you can run with and feel confident in executing. I'm excited to be a part of this with you, Stephen. And let's get this night started.
Thank you, Natalie. So first, I want to give a big shout out to head nerds in charge at HNIC for taking this little idea and making it possible. I love this audience. I am an OG original geek. I am wearing tonight my Federation cufflinks that show you just how much of a nerd I am. Yes, that's me at Comic-Con in San Diego. I've been going for the last few years. I'm now switching to New York Comic-Con because it actually has gotten just as good as San Diego. A lot of stuff that happens in San Diego now comes to New York, but I don't think New York will ever be as big as San Diego. It's have so much room out there. But I am a geek. But more importantly, for what we're going to be accomplishing tonight, I am an entrepreneur. I have built and sold a few companies in my lifetime. I've been currently leading an organization that's been around for 55 years, teaching other individuals of how to start and grow successful businesses. We have graduates who have been in business for 20, 25, and 30 plus years. I've been featured in Black Enterprise, numerous television interviews and stuff, but I am more proud to be able to help other people become successful as an entrepreneur. And that's what we do, Natalie. That's what we do. That's what our guests tonight do. We're always giving back. We want to see our communities really grow and be successful, because we know that when we create successful businesses, we're creating more jobs. We're creating more opportunities. Our communities are stronger. They have more voting power. They could get the right elected officials that's going to truly represent them, not the ones that show up every fourth year looking for a vote. And get away with that because they don't, the economic power to put together, strong candidates is not there. So there's a lot that happens when people become successful entrepreneurs. And our focus is going to be to help you get over that hump, get over there to help you survive being in business for, only lasting a year and a half or not lasting 3 years, but to grow, survive, bring in more employees, give more people jobs, even people who have served reentry individuals. One thing I noticed that when someone has finished paying their debt to society and they come back home and they start a business, the first thing they do is hire others who've been in the same situation they have been. That reduces that circle of you come out, you fall back in the same track, you make a mistake, and you're right back in again. And that's how we're going to start to reduce these things through entrepreneurship. What's your thoughts on that, Natalie?
No, I definitely believe in entrepreneurship, but there has to be a point where we start owning businesses, and businesses provide work opportunities. They create jobs, which we can then employ our communities. And then when we can employ our communities, we are stacking our tax base. And when we have a healthy tax base, we're able to get the social services within our communities that we need. So it's not just about being an entrepreneur all the time. It's also saying, when are we going to take this business to the next level? When are we going to scale it? Is it scalable? Or my favorite, how do we exit it, right? Those are the things that we don't always think about as entrepreneurs or business owners. But there is more than just starting the business. There's more than just going around saying, I have a t-shirt business, I have a candle business. Now the question is, how many people do you employ? Because when we start employing, that's how we infect the ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, so when we talk about, over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma being one of the being a Black Wall Street, but it was not the only Black Wall Street in this country during that time. We had Rosewood, Florida. We had Black Wall Street communities in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Ohio, a couple places in Ohio, not just Tulsa, and also in Texas. So we've known our history of blacks in this country, even escaping slavery, whatever we had to do, but we knew how to build business. We knew how to hire within our own communities. We knew how to create jobs for one another, to become the employers of our community, so that our communities thrive. And that's something that I want to see us get back to, seeing blacks being one of the top employers of black people. That is something I've learned from a good friend of mine and a good friend of our guest this evening, Brother Bedford. I'm talking about a gentleman by the name of Dr. George Frazier. He wrote the master book on networking for Black Americans called Success Runs in Our Race. That book is actually required reading on some HBCU campuses. And he's been putting on his Frazier Net conference for the past 20, this is year 21. I mean, the gentleman has done phenomenal things. And he does this because he knows that we have greatness within us. We have the ability to hire within, we could be the number one employees of black people, because as he has taught us, Asians are the number one employers of Asian people in this country. And they have done that through all those Chinese restaurants in our neighborhoods where they get our money and they go back to their communities because they didn't employ their community. I mean, you walk into a Chinese restaurant, who do you see there? I mean, even the delivery person is Asian, and we are not in their communities. What do you feel about that? Talk to me.
I believe that we definitely need to start embracing each other in our communities, supporting each other, but also not supporting because you're making me feel bad or I'm your cousin or I'm your friend, but because I actually need your product and service, right? So that requires us to even step up our products and services and make sure that we're delivering good customer service as best as possible, but also being forgiving when sometimes customer service may not be the greatest, because we forgive other people when customer service is not the greatest. So I want us to improve our customer service. I want us to work on that as we are building in our communities. But I also want to acknowledge that we're not always going to be perfect, and we need to give each other grace. I think grace is important.
Yeah. Good. So before I move on, I want to acknowledge a couple of my friends. One is my good buddy, Dr. Stacy N.C. Grant. She is a top faithpreneur. Matter of fact, she has a magazine launching on February 15th. I can't wait to be there. She has done so many amazing things. We've been friends for many years. My other good buddy I saw just pop in the show is Dr. Veroni Lawrence. Yes, I know a lot of doctors, don't I? Dr. Lawrence is a lead educator. She's been my buddy ever since I had my running club. She was also one of the key consultants that I always refer to when I'm doing something educational based, or even when I'm making decisions like the decision I made to start my own company. So guess what? I thought it was going to be a side hustle. As Brother Bedford will be able to tell you, back in October when I was part of his mastermind group, and Brother Bedford is on our special guest, and I'll be talking more about him. But back in October, I had this concept that I was going to start a side hustle. I've never had a side hustle before. So all the companies I started, I literally, like my first company, I literally left my job to start that company. And I've always found myself starting a company not while I was working somewhere else. And this is the first time I've actually started a business. I'm currently the CEO of the Workshop in Business Opportunities. That's a 55-year-old organization that's been teaching entrepreneurship to people in underserved communities, mostly African-American men and women. For the past 55 years, we have a strong, long track record. However, I have the opportunity to start a business with two of my daughters. And that's the company we are now talking about, Transruptic. And I'm not going to talk about a lot tonight because we got other months to really go into what Transruptic is going to be about. But we just discovered a different way of how we want to help people become entrepreneurs and scale and stay entrepreneurs, be able to survive past 5 years. Because in order to scale, to grow, in order to see, hey, Shondel's our graphic artist. Let me give her a shout out because she actually does all the graphics, the logos, everything you've seen. She does all my logos. She does the logos, and my granddaughter, who's been my whole family's on tonight. So my granddaughter has been she's been my social media person. She's attending FIT, so she got some really good grades in her marketing classes. So I said, well, I got a job for you. Come do social media for me. So she's done that, and a great job as well. But get back to, so we thought about some ways to solve a unique problem in our communities. And that problem is our businesses don't last long enough to really do those things we want to see done. Be the number one employer of Black people, raise the economies of our neighborhood, because they don't stay in business long enough, or not enough of them stay in business long enough
Mm-hmm.
to recreate those Black Wall Street communities. So that's Transruptic take on it. We have a unique way of how we're going to really be a holistic company to really creating entrepreneurs. This is not going to be a course that's going to be 10 weeks or 16 weeks. This is going to be a full engagement. We're going to be working with entrepreneurs for about a total of 14 months to really help them scale, deal with all the other problems that they're going to have to, that they may encounter while growing their business. And our focus is to see them be able to hire, be able to what we call working on the business versus working in the business. When you're working in the business, you're doing 99% of everything. And I want you to get to the point of working on the business where now you've got employees doing the stuff that you don't need to do. And you can look at other ways to make income to grow your company, whether it's franchising, whether it's new products, new locations, whatever that may look like. So enough about us, right, Natalie? We got a topic that we're going to jump into. And Natalie, I want you started us on that topic, because you watched the video last night again.
I did.
So you got the freshest thoughts. You got the freshest thoughts in mind of how we can really talk about. We have our audience is a lot of creative individuals. I had actually 3 creative individuals who attended the Weibo Philly cohort this past fall,
Mm-hmm.
because we Head Nerds and myself, we did a number of shows on the Head Nerds in Charge program. You was interviewed on one of them as well, Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
And during the summer, I went down to Philly and I attended a Black Comic Con, and we did almost like a Shark Tank type of situation. We had a boardroom and we had individuals pitch their businesses, and we chose 5 individuals to take the workshop for free based on their presentations. They're based on their 60-second presentations and feedback. And we had 3 of those gentlemen who actually completed the program. One is Phoenix Nebula. I don't remember the names of the other 2, but they both have Phoenix is an amazing artist. So he does paintings, and he does some really serious work. And I know Curtis is going to bring up that piece he did for one of his people soon. And then we had 2 gentlemen who have been creating characters in books. One is creating characters of people with children with special abilities. So, we're talking about, autistic, and he's creating, like superhero characters with those. And he's actually presenting those in the public school system, as ways of seeing ourselves differently than, traditional media. And we're going to have some conversation, because the subject we got tonight does deal with how traditional media displays us. Mm-hmm. So Natalie, you watched the program last night. Tell me about it.
I did. So we are going to talk about the Black Sands Entertainment and the Shark Tank deal. So I watched it last night. So I wanted to go through what that was said so that we can all be on the same page, because we're just going to go with facts, right? It's not how we feel or what we think he should have done or my opinion, facts, right? Because that's the best way to look at this. So I went through it, and one thing I realized off the bat was that the more than anything, he's selling intellectual property. That is the main key driver here, right? So he, one thing I realized is that the guy that was with them, who is in charge of the $250,000 animated product that they've created, it's an 8-minute, I guess, like video or something that they've worked on. He came from Pixar and Disney. He left Pixar and Disney to jump on this. So the first thing that I saw was talent was willing to leave for the opportunity. All right. We don't know what his piece of the cut is. Believe you me, he got a piece of the cut. That wasn't just done. It's salary plus something.
Right.
Then they said, what is the main source of the income? So I started to pay attention to that. Main source of the income is the physical sale of books, right? And they are doing, in 2021, they did 120K units direct to consumer. That's pretty impressive, right? That means me going straight to them. There's no middleman there.
I was one of those buyers. I was one of those buyers too.
I bet you were.
Yes.
You were like, Black superheroes. I'm all over this, right? So let's go through the numbers. So Wholesale is $8, but then they said something that I'm not sure people paid attention to is the landing cost, which is probably like the shipping cost and all that. So it's not really
Mm-hmm.
$8 wholesale, it's $10 wholesale, and it's $20 retail. In 2017, the first year, they did 40,000. Second year, 220K thousand. But we have words like exponential growth and reasons why exponential growth happens. So I look at
Mm-hmm.
the culture that we were in, what was happening around these times, right? We had like Black Panther and all this super, like, oh my God, it was like a plethora of all this goodness, Black superhero thing. So then that opens room for more people looking in. So by 2020, they were at 600,000 K a year. And then this 2021, they're at 800,000 K.
Right.
Plus, and that's in the book sales. Plus, they still have comic titles. They have 12 comic titles signed to
Mm-hmm.
their label. And then they raised money to create a DVD, right? This is
Yes.
where it got sticky for me. When Kevin, so the fun thing that is that what's the ask, right? So when Kevin said, "What are you going to do with the $50,000?" That's $500,000. That's where it went downhill.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is, he didn't know what he would do with $500,000.
Yes.
He didn't know. He said, "We need artists. Each artist costs $30,000 to $40,000 a year to hire. Then you're done. That budget is completely for right.
That's not even the budget. That's like that's part-time employees. That's what you got
That's
some you got some part-time contract workers that come in to do 6 weeks worth of work if you only got
work.
$50,000 to do. Yeah, that I
It,
mean, yeah, and his type of business, that money would have been gone before. Like, we in February, he'd been broke again by April.
right. So, and he was asking for the 500,000 with 5%, right? So Kevin was like, "Squash that. I'm not giving you taking. I want 30%,
Hmm.
15 for me, 15 for Mark." Right? Was that a smart deal? In my opinion, yes, because he had nothing. Right? With Kevin's deal, he now has distribution of audio, TV, brand endorsement, talent, and access to talent. So he doesn't have to pay for writers. It's not going to come out of that 500,000. Um, and he gets to tap into the ecosystem of Kevin Hart, and we all know how he's done with that. So I thought that was a good deal. Then then Mark Cuban is going to take care of all the technology and online distribution. So he pretty much got more than what he asked.
Hmm.
30% wasn't a lot because he still has the $500,000 to scale in other ways,
Hmm.
plus get everything that he needs to get done in the foundation of the business. And just them touching it. So they said that the business was evaluated at $10 million dollars, right? So right there, just this deal could make bring that evaluation up even more.
Oh, it quite certainly will. Okay, so I know we got a little piece of the clip ready to play. Uh, Kurt, if you want to play it.
How long has he trained you? I did not train him. I took him into the wilderness for 5 years. He has survived. I forbid this battle. You will stop nothing. Damn it, brother. Why must you be like this all the time?
Asar, you need to think this through. There is nothing to think about.
Okay, my fans, they want this done.
They do.
So you guys got a deal. That's it. Let's go.
Okay, and so they have a deal, and what I've been seeing on the internet was a lot of questions and opinions, and what we in the sports world call Monday morning quarterbacking. There's a lot of people to sit on the sidelines and make judgment calls. So I want to bring a few things to clarity. Shark Tank is entertainment. That's the number one reason, is to get viewers to watch. And how do we get viewers to watch? Is by creating some sort of drama and controversy. Okay. And I know this because I had one very good friend of mine and some other individuals I know who actually had the opportunity to appear on Shark Tank, you know. And there's a lot of things that go behind the scenes that the public doesn't know. Okay, so that's why I want to make certain that people do understand that the first purpose of the show is to entertain. Now, it's good that it's entertaining with entrepreneurial content, and you have to be prepared to understand that you have to have certain things in place in order for you to even be prepared to go on a program like Shark Tank if you want to raise money that way. When you're looking to raise venture capital, and I tell you right now, and Brother Bedford can attest to this, and those of us who are in this industry know that very seldom when you there is like a zero chance of getting $500,000 for 5% of a business. Okay, you can ask for that. There's nothing wrong with asking. That's what negotiation is really. The art of negotiation is coming to a win-win situation. Okay, and there are some people on Shark Tank who have not gotten the deal they wanted, and they walked away. And that's the even better part of negotiation, to know that if you can't get a win-win, then I can walk away. Because if you cannot walk away from negotiation, you're not really negotiating. You're just a hostage sitting in the room. Okay. I need people to understand that if you cannot negotiate, if you're not willing to get up and walk away, you are a hostage. And I've walked away from a number of deals over my lifetime, and whether it turned out great or not doesn't matter. I didn't feel good about it. It wasn't presented well. I didn't like my shot at it. And I'm willing to say, not today. So I give them credit for being able to come on that show, willing to negotiate. So I don't know what the producers told them what to start with or how to create drama. I'm going to really believe that these two gentlemen knew all along what they wanted and what they was willing to give up. Like you have a number in your head that you're willing to put, like this is my drop dead number. This is my deal breaker here. You have that in your mind when you start negotiating. So you could come in high. Yes, I want $500,000. You can only get, I'm only willing to give up 5%, or some people say 10%. And there's going to be a counter. Shark's going to say, well, I'll give you $250K for 25%.
And you know what, Stephen? Another thing is that one thing that Mark Cuban asked him is, what is your cash on hand? They have $108,000 that is in the positive. So that's like they're okay. And they have $300,000 in the bank, right? So what they were asking for was more than what they even had in cash, right? So it didn't put them in a situation that was they weren't taking on as much risk as Kevin and all the rest of them are, right?
Correct.
The other thing is that one thing that I didn't learn, but I think I've been getting better at, is that we just got to be better at what the ask is. So when somebody says, how do you plan on spending $500,000? We can't be vague. And what he said when he was being vague, he said, I want to expand maybe 8 more issues a year. Maybe, that could be like 30 issues a year. He was just throwing things out there. I think that we need to be very clear in what our ask is and before we start putting things out there.
Correct. And that's the key thing about growing your business, is always what is the plan. So even, if they weren't on Shark Tank, say he went to his local bank, the bank is going to want to see, what's your 3-year projection? What is your plan? So if you are projecting out what your income looks like for 3 years, then you'll also begin to project out what you're going to use the money on. You have to have that in case. So, when it's not so much about, hey, I got to have this pristine looking business plan. No, it's really say, if I get this amount of money, this is what I'm going to accomplish. This is what I can accomplish. This amount of money, if he only got 100K and he didn't get the distribution, everything, he still needs to know, what am I going to do with 100K? So the lesson that we want you to take away from this is, everybody is going to grow their business differently based upon their skill set. And that's one of the things that we go over constantly in the workshop, is that it's your business. You're going to build it the way that you see fit. You're going to give up whatever you want to give up in the business as you see fit. And sometimes you're willing to give up some things to get more. It's an old parallel. You put your hand in a cookie jar to get a bunch of cookies, but you can't take all the cookies out unless you let some go. You can always come back. So if you're not letting cookies go, you're not going to get any cookies out the jar. Your hand is stuck. So
exactly.
giving up some equity in a business doesn't make you any less of a business. It makes you sometimes a smarter business owner, because if you look at all our unicorns, you look at Facebook, you look at Uber, Lyft, all these other companies, they gave up something for venture capital funding. And, right now you got, the owner of Facebook, he's riding around in a private, 747. You got Elon Musk, he got his own private jet plane. So even though they gave us some equity, did not break them. There are so many different ways of raising capital. One of the first things I see a number of individuals do is they go to Kickstarter. Okay. And once again, I'm not going to knock any way of how people raise their money, because you do it the way that you use the tools that and you have a plan. And there's nothing wrong with Kickstarter. There's been a lot of success out of Kickstarter. If you know how to create that strong video and that appeal, you can definitely raise the money. But that's not also the only way. There are alternative funding ways as well. We got a bank here in New York called Silicon Valley Bank that gets involved in early seed startups. That's their whole business model, is to get involved in early seed startups. So they would have looked at, they could have been the type of bank that would have looked at Sands and said, you have something here. Let's have a conversation. So it's really about doing that, getting out there, doing the research. That's the first thing. We don't do enough research. I think these gentlemen did watch enough episodes of Shark Tank to figure out what they needed to do. And I think he did know what he wanted to do with the money. I think that was part of the entertainment drama of the program. You got to have some drama in the programs. I know one of my friends, they challenged her on not knowing the numbers in her business. And I knew that was a lie. And she texted me the night before it came on. She said, Steve, when you watch this program, she said, remember, this is entertainment, because I know you're going to text me afterwards. And I did. I was saying, how are you going to sit there and look dumb like you don't know your numbers? And she, like, once again, it was entertainment. So we got to take into consideration that we was watching entertainment, good entertainment, glad they got the deal done. And also, we don't even know what it would take sometime for them to complete that deal, because that's what happens in the back office. My friend who got a deal with Damon, right, she still had to raise additional capital in order to really conclude that deal. So you never know what really happens behind the scenes. But I want us to celebrate those successes of Black Sands. I give them 2 thumbs up, and definitely the Z Snap and all that other good stuff, because I appreciate what they did. Like I said, I had their comic books early on. Been a fan of. I like the work that they're doing. I want to see them successful, and I hope this is creating conversations and open the doors to see more creatives look at ways of funding your business, treating your business not as is your hobby, as if it's your child, but treat this as a scalable business by really, finding that target. You know who your target market is, but just creating the products and services, and think about the growth factor of your business. What else can you do? What else will you do? What other products? I mean, we look at what Marvel is. Marvel started when I was a kid with just a bunch of titles, and look at it now.
We watched it in the wrong order, I heard, right? But the other thing too is that we have to remember that this is a emerging market, right? Black comics, Black action, Black. It's an emerging market, which means I like to think about eBay. And then all these other sites that came in after eBay, and how eBay it takes eBay a longer time to make quick changes, because it's bigger and it's been around more, and it has more embeds in there. But what this actually does, it allows for more Black creatives to create their own Marvel, their own, different catalog of comic lines. This shouldn't just be the only one. Maybe we see something that's Caribbean Black Power. I don't know. But this gives opportunity for more people to start opening up and doing their own creative thing. We don't only have to be one. And I want that to be something that we really take, that many of us can be successful. It doesn't just have to be one of us. It doesn't have to be just one Black Sands. It can inspire for other people to open up and start their own thing. So I want that to be taken out of this.
Well, we have more coming. When I was at the Black Comic Con convention, these are some of the publications I picked up from. I picked up from Black artists. I got a few more. These were just some of the ones I had quickly in my hand. There are a number of young adults around the country who are creating their own comic books, their own graphic novels, their own. We are just such creative people. First of all, I mean, that's the whole thing. That's how we've been such a powerful society. Is that, yes, concrete, that's correct. We're just really creative people. And the thing is that for too long, other people have profited off our creativity. I mean, let's look at Jim Beam, liquor. Okay. That's my middle daughter. Good evening, Chantel. She is our state Assembly representative for the 79th district. And even TD Jackson. That is so. TD Jackson is vice president of leadership development for Transruptic, and she's right. Even creating characters who with neuro. Yes, and that's what one gentleman is working on as well. So too often we have seen our creativity taken and used by other people to be profitable. And what I'm seeing, what I hope is going to happen, and not hope, but what we're going to work to make happen, is see more creative people own, not just own it, but really build it and create those next Disneys and Marvels and everything else that we know they can do, despite what we know are maybe some barriers. I applaud what Black Sands did. They did, they opened up a door. They went down, they went down a path. I would like to see this not to be the end of it. For those of you who are also creative, it's now to put on the business hat, not just the you already excellent at the creative hat. We now want you to put on the business hat. So with that coming up, the Workshop in Business Opportunities, which is a 55-year organization teaching entrepreneurship, is starting up some cohorts this month and next month. Natalie is the affiliate partner for Bridgeport, Connecticut. She has been leading that cohort. So when your cohort start?
We start February 22nd. Here goes our flyer right here. You can go to ledbyusct.com. and you'll see the Weibo Bean program. So you could sign up there. And what we're doing for this cohort is once you complete, we're going to reimburse you the $150.
Wait. You giving my money away?
We're going to give it back to you. We're going to reinvest back into you, right? Because we figure, right? So I definitely want to see those numbers grow. Right now I'm taking about 10 people and we have 2 people registered. So I'm looking for those numbers to increase.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm just teasing about the money. I mean, it's not my money anyway. And also, we have the St. Louis cohort that's going to be starting up. I think they start up in March as well. I know we got a flyer for them, and we have another cohort in Waco, Texas, that's starting on March 22nd. Yeah, that's our Waco cohort. Waco starts on March 22nd. You can go to WeiboWaco.org. And sign up there if you're in the Midwest and you want to start at a later hour. We also have a cohort in Philadelphia where Head Nerds in Charge is located. That was the last. They just finished their cohort, so I don't know exactly when they're going to start their next cohort. But as soon as they know, I know Head Nerds in Charge will be, putting something announcing about their next upcoming cohort. So if you are one of those creators out there, I encourage you to take. To get involved, take the Workshop Business Opportunity. It is not super expensive. We charge a sliding fee scale based upon your income, but this is more about 10 weeks of really learning how to scale and grow a company. Okay. We've been creating successful entrepreneurs since I am a graduate of this program. So I took this course in 1992, and that's when I went on to build my first of 3 businesses that I built and sold, and now here with business number 4. It is officially a company we launched this week by putting out our first white paper. So I have been in my master, and I and Brother Beth will speak more about that when we bring him on in a couple of minutes. I am a big fan of mastermind groups now. I've been participating in one regularly, and I was traveling to Virginia Beach with my family, and while I was I left the airport, and it was 12 o'clock Thursday, and my mastermind group was on, and I tuned in, and I'm listening. I get to the hotel, and I'm sitting in the car listening, and one of our friends in the mastermind group talked about a concept. Oh wow, in the 1900s. So my children got too many jokes. Yes, 1992. Yes, the 1900s. She, Anitra Lane, and she's the contributor to this white paper that we wrote. She was talking about what would happen if we as a people treated entrepreneurship as a career path. And when she said that, my brain kind of like went into overdrive. I just saw so many possibilities of what we would be if we treated entrepreneurship not as a side hustle, not as a part-time gig, not as something you do because you need some money to pay the rent, not something to do because your boss ain't paying you well, what would happen if we treated. So we wrote a white paper on that. And Curtis, can you, if you bring up that the cover of that white paper, hopefully, while we're doing, while we're talking. So we have a white paper out now. You can go to our website, transruptic.com, and you can download the white paper. And we're talking about entrepreneurship as a career path. What does that mean? How does that look? What are the benefits to that? And that's what we discuss. So that's what we've done. We're in our soft launch. We're going to be actually doing our first cohort of working with entrepreneurs probably in June of this year. There's some things that we're working to bring to make a really strong and engaging and powerful program, but more importantly, to make it a successful program for those who participate in it. Okay, that's to cover entrepreneurship as a career path for entrepreneurs, for people of color, excuse me. So you can download it. It's about 14 pages. It's a good read. And hopefully,
and Stephen,
yes.
I want to add to something that, I do career coaching. I would say that that's the main part of my business. And I've really shifted over there because I've realized that we don't have as much time at places anymore. So maybe generations, they'd be like, oh, I was there for 25, 30 years, 40 years. That does not exist. You are literally rock climbing. You are switching different jobs maybe every 5, 6 years, sometimes even less than that, because technology makes things move faster. Exponential growth is more possible, right? Just think about how many times you've had to change or relearn your Facebook. There could be an update this week that changes how it looks, right? So right now we're in this world where, a part of being an entrepreneur career is being an entrepreneur. You might have to shift between different opportunities and contract before you make the link to your next opportunities, or you might not even be ready to take an opportunity and need to do some stack certifications to get to that next opportunity. So we are in a different world now where you're not gonna have the same job for 15, 20, 25 years. So you have to get in the habit of knowing those resumes, cover letters, and learn how to interview folks.
I haven't even learned how to keep the same company for 15 years, much less a job. Okay, so with that being said, what we've been talking about, it's time. I want to introduce you. I've been talking about him throughout the evening. He is just an incredible gentleman. I'm also attempting to read the comments here. Okay, so Brother Bedford he got his beginning by interviewing Black millionaires, Dr. George Fraser. We can go on and on and on. I got a full list. I can't remember all of them. Kathy Hughes being there. I'm quite certain it was Bob Johnson as well. Our good friend Andrew Morrison. And what I learned, a lot of things I learned from Andrew Morrison, and we talked about Dr. George Fraser. So he started with conversations of Black millionaires. He then moved into helping people create, scale, grow businesses through his networking and masterminding. He's also he's like me. He's an OG, original geek. He's been on the internet like us in the early days, selling products and services. So those are that's a little bit about what he's done, and I'm so glad to have him with us tonight as we talk about this concept of the entrepreneurial mindset. So, Brother Bedford, tell us about you, just so we get right into it. What do you want the public to know about you?
Man, I think you said it all. I think you said it all. But no, I'm just honored to be here. I'm thoroughly enjoying the conversation that you and Natalie are having. So first, thank you for having me. This is such a wealth of knowledge, a timely subject. But more importantly, these types of conversations don't happen often enough for our people and people of color. And we continue that gap of being able to be entrepreneurs and business owners that Natalie touched on earlier, because we're not exposed to these types of conversations, and even just the behind the scenes, the way that you all broke down what was happening with Black Sands. I mean, this is just the type of conversation that's the catalyst for entrepreneurship and business in our conversation. So I'm just honored to be here, happy to be here. Can't wait to talk about the entrepreneur mindset and just share my 2 cents and the brief
Well,
history that I have.
well, we're gonna get right to it. So, the reason I always talk about the entrepreneurial mindset because I spent 16 years along with my daughters and other friends, Shondell Pitts, and who's also we've been in leadership training. And even though I started my first company without going having any leadership training or anything like that, I realized that I had a certain mindset that made me want to be an entrepreneur. First of all, I didn't like working for other people. I didn't like their rules and stuff, and I spent too much time attempting to break their rules. So it kind of, and always like things done my way, as my family would could tell you. So it was kind of best that I be an entrepreneur where I could control those type of things.
Mhm.
But I realized that when you have a certain mind, when you start to develop a certain mindset, that encourages you to be successful as an entrepreneur. And I've been
Mhm.
focused on that. And I first thing I want to let everyone know, I personally believe that every human on this earth has entrepreneur DNA within them.
Right.
That is how we built civilizations. We all have
Mhm.
gifts, talents, and skills. So in the early days, Brother Bedford may have been good with healing people. I may have been good with, animals, raising animals. Natalie may have been good with crops, growing crops. And we traded for what we needed. Natalie would
Mhm.
trade her crops with my meat for meat from me. We traded with Brother Bedford to be healed. And that's how so we had these skills. We were all entrepreneurs at one time, and then we created jobs and empires and
Mhm.
everything else alongside it. But we do have that. But it takes a mindset to bring that out. So, Brother Bedford, please speak to us. What is that? What does that look like?
Wow, you said something so profound. Is that you and I come from the same school of thought that we're born with this trait in us, right? We're born entrepreneurs, and I've been in many tussles and arguments with a lot of our people on that subject matter because they say they want some of our people to stay as far away from entrepreneurship and business as possible. And I said, well, that's only because of the education that we've
Mhm.
encountered here in America. Now that natural innate talent, skills, gifts, and strengths that normally we cultivated, we didn't have an opportunity to do that because normally when we
Mhm.
turned 5 and 6, we were put into a school system that kind of didn't want us to be creative. It didn't want us to focus on our strengths and talents and collaborate with others. It was all about see spot see spot run and all of those different types of things. And so we never really were trained to kind of foster that entrepreneurial development. And so, what you've alluded to, Stephen, is that many times we kind of go back to that by default. Unfortunately, most of us, when we decide to become entrepreneurs nowadays, it is because of we don't like the boss, or we automatically know that we're not functioning in our purpose, and we're frustrated with that job, and so we kind of whipsaw into entrepreneurship
Mhm.
without really thinking about our natural talents, skills, and gifts, and how do we go about developing a product or a service. So you're right;
Mhm.
it's in us. You said something else real quick that I thought was profound. After the Emancipation Proclamation, you could see that the evidence of that. We immediately went out, and you're right; it wasn't just Black Wall Street, which came later. There were 60 Black towns that we
Exactly.
developed immediately after slavery because we knew we had to go and build. We knew we had to go and create and do something for ourselves. And we know what happened to those towns. And we know about all of the laws that came about to kind of kill that desire in us. So now we just got to
Mhm.
get that back again. And I think that is happening. I think that's what Natalie was speaking of earlier, is that we're finding that we're not sticking in businesses or careers for long periods of time. And we're just trying to find our way back to that entrepreneurial mindset and spirit.
So I read a report today. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Natalie, please.
As we speak about that, and it's something that I truly believe. To me, it doesn't mean that I'm not a good worker, though.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that I don't have good ethic. I think a lot of us sometimes we are like, I'm gonna quit this job. I don't want to work for nobody else. But you got to be your best self when you're working for self, and that for me, I learned in my career. I learned that in a corporate, in a retail setting, of how to hold myself accountable and deliver good work, so that when I started my business, I have a really good work ethic. So I think the problem is we think that we can start a business because nobody's going to tell us what to do. But we are ourselves. We can self-sabotage ourselves, or we could be accountable to ourselves. So that's, I just want that clarity to be in there, because I think that that's important.
So in other words, you're saying we leave one crazy boss and start working for another crazy boss, which is ourselves.
I'm not that sane. I'm not that sane.
Well, yeah, I learned later on that, yeah, I was a crazy boss.
Yeah.
That's what leadership training did for me. It taught me just how crazy I really was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I want to you talked about how we immediately went out and started our own communities and our own towns. How do we get that back, Brother Bedford? How do we begin to light that fire again?
Well, I think it's happening.
Okay.
It's time and circumstance, right? I mean, the conditions kind of made us do it, right? There was the freeing of the slaves, and then of course there were some who were saying, "What are we going to do?" Right? You know, we've been here for so long. What are we going to do? But then there were others who said, "Right, we're out of here," and they started building. I think that's happening now. Probably not the same way, but as Natalie so beautifully talked about it earlier, that we're hearing all of these great terms, right? The great resignation and the financial reset. So the conditions are forcing us to get back to that. But here's the key. Now we need places like Transruptic and what I'm attempting to do and what Natalie does, because now we're going back into this environment, but we still haven't rekindled those skills yet, those entrepreneurial skills, as Natalie just talked about, the work ethic and being on time and all of those different types of things. We've forgotten how to do that by ourselves. And so we need what you're providing and other groups are providing to kind of help us to get reacclimated back to that.
Mhm.
Yes. So it's almost, we had a conversation about this during our mastermind group meeting this afternoon, and a post came up on my Instagram that said in November 48 million people resigned.
Yeah.
Okay, in a month of November alone.
Yeah.
2021.
It shifts, more shifts, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a worker's market, right? You can get more money, you can work at home. If your boss makes you mad, you have more options. More nonprofits have gotten more money for their programming, so there's more salaries. So the Great Resignation is people deciding that I'm going to make a shift. I'm going to cut back. It was nice, think about when COVID, how still and silent and quiet. You realize what you really didn't need. I didn't need this boss. I didn't need this headache, right? I think that's a really important thing. I think it's important that we are not defined by our work and we are not defined by our business. I'd rather be defined by my family. I know, you know what I mean? The things that really matter. And for a long time, I think we were off balance, and we're starting to get that balance back. People are realizing what their value is, the value they bring to the table, right? Then we need a new wave of entrepreneurs that maybe have the energy to start hiring. Maybe they have some 401k money they've saved up. They've been working in these C-suite positions, executive positions. They have money. They want to start businesses. We want to see more of that. So I think there's just so much that that resignation means. However, we do need to. People are going to have to eventually get back to work. That's how an economy works. That's how it grows.
I just want to quickly say, please don't use the 401k money that comes with a lot of taxation and penalties.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's like 10%. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's use the life insurance money. So next month when we talk about finance, we're going to talk about life, the money that's in life insurance that you can use. That's how Walt Disney started his studio. He used the money in life insurance, first. So we're going to talk about those other ways, but please don't run out of cash in the 401k.
Don't listen to Natalie. Don't listen. I take that back. Do not use your 401k. We got that documented. Okay, good.
Right. Something that you also said, though, Natalie, I believe Karen and a few others had just chimed in on that. It's not that we just recognize that we didn't need, the boss and things like that, but we also recognize what we wanted, right? So the pandemic also caused us to look at what's most important to us, family and purpose. I just saw someone type that. So now people are beginning to get back to what is my purpose? Why am I here? Right? Dr. Dennis
Mhm.
Kimbrough, in my conversation with him, he said that, that's the primary question. When you ask that question, who am I and what am I here for? That's when you begin to become awakened and you start moving in a different direction. And I think the pandemic, along with some other activities that have happened over the last couple of years, has gotten people into a position where that's most important now. And so no matter how much they're offering for the jobs right now, I mean, they're offering bonuses. I saw a commercial with Domino's say they want to pay you $3 to come and pick up your piece because they're having trouble getting delivery drivers. And it's because people are saying that I can do something else with my time and my life, because many of us have lost loved ones and we've just seen so much pain and hurt. So again, circumstances are forcing us to get back to something that we really naturally would have done if the circumstances were different.
But now you said something very powerful. You said circumstances.
Yeah.
And that is what I've encountered in the past 3 years of being the CEO of the Workshop and Business Opportunity. So every class, I ask one question: what would you do if you were not afraid? The number one answer is, I would have done this sooner. They would have taken this workshop sooner. They would have invested in their business sooner. They would have taken some steps to get to where they are today. But circumstances has now driven them to say, this is my choice. So now we get into the mindsets, right? So, Brother Bedford, let's talk about what does people need to do to shift the thinking of being an employee to the thinking of being a business owner.
Well, one, what you said earlier, I think really embracing the fact that you're naturally an entrepreneur, and really, hopefully, someone can write this down and just make a note of it. Is that entrepreneur is a French word that just really entered into the English lexicon in the early 1800s by a French economist. And so it's really just a word that, if you really study the root of it, the etymology of it, just simply means being creative, right? Taking resources that are underutilized and creating other opportunities, or taking those resources and expanding for profit. And so it's really a simple definition, but many of us are scared of that term entrepreneur. So I kind of just wanted to put that on the table, because that's a part of the mindset, is that if you know that you have natural talent, skills, and gifts, and you learn how to build around that, right? Now, what is the business model? What you were talking about earlier, Stephen, was beautiful about encouraging the creatives to stay creative, but now think of a business model to wrap your creativity around, so that now you can get compensated for your artistic expression, but your music, your art, your talent, your graphics. There's a way for us to monetize that, and it doesn't have to be in a quote unquote corporate structure. There's a lot of opportunity out here for us to do that. And so the first thing that I would say about the mindset is to make that shift, that you have everything that you need to generate income. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. What do I get is income or revenue to provide for my needs, a roof, shelter, and clothing. And so the first thing for myself, once I grew into the understanding that I could take my talents, my use of language, my use of presentation, my interviewing skills, and I could make money from that, there was nothing else that you could tell me about, I couldn't do something, or I couldn't make money, or I couldn't be in this entrepreneurial arena. So the first thing, Stephen, you've touched on it many times, is that belief in yourself. As woo-woo as that sounds, for a lot of people, that's really the core of it. Once you understand that, all of the other things start to fall into place.
True.
Strong sense of self-efficacy.
Absolutely.
Right. So we got someone else we're going to bring on in a minute, but I just want to just say this one thing is, belief in oneself is powerful, and I think that's what I had a lot of in the beginning. But then over time, as building a business, I also built a lot of self-doubt, but I just was stubborn enough to keep pushing on. And what is interesting is that this is actually the first company that I've been so relaxed in building. I say, Brother Bedford and the mastermind group see this on a weekly basis, is that I'm moving so at ease and methodical, that this is the first time I really felt comfortable about the success of a new venture. The first 3 times, man, I had some seriously scary moments. especially business number one. I mean, I was ready to throw in the towel long before, you know, I was ready to throw in the towel a long time ago. You know, business number three was all over the place. I mean, I just started the business because someone gave me a contract. So I had no, if I was to appear on Shark Tank 1 year after I built that business, I would look really silly because I had no idea how I was going to scale it, what I was going to do with it, nothing. I was just had a contract and I was running with it, and eventually I started to figure that out. Okay, so I want to bring in our other guest, Mr. John Edwards. How are you this evening, Mr. Edwards?
Good evening. How are you all?
We are good. So
Great.
John Edwards, I met at he was a director at Metropolitan College, and what I learned was that he has some other skills that I didn't even know about. That we're
I know
now
how to
having
break dance. I know how to do a couple of things.
Wait, he should have been on at the beginning when we had the, we were getting ready to start
Mic check.
battle rap. Right, we were getting ready to do a battle rap, so we couldn't use it.
Exactly. That's
yeah,
it.
I could. You come from Brooklyn, so you could have gave us some flavor. You know, I was doing my best to represent the Boogie Down Bronx, and we got Brother Bedford out of the ATL. So, John, tell us a little bit about what you do, and I have a question for you. I want you to definitely respond to.
All right, excellent. Well, as you mentioned, I just stepped away. Excuse me, down from my role as executive director of Metropolitan College from New York Bronx campus. Very similarly to what you all are talking about, I always had a consulting business, but I always thought about my consulting business as a side opportunity. I did well, it made money, but my primary gig was the work I was doing at the college. And I just decided, why am I putting my time, talent, and energy behind that situation when I can put the time behind the situation that I currently have and grow that? So at this point in my life, it was sort of a no-brainer for me.
Great. So, John, you and I, we've been having this conversation about the entrepreneurial mindset, and so you've had a side business.
That's
why? Right. Why? And now that it's your main business, what's been the shift that made that happen?
Well, first it was a paradigm shift. Well, let me back up a little. Before the side business, I was sort of groomed to work for a company, and that's the way that I saw it. My mom worked for a financial firm here in New York, Morgan Stanley, and my dad was an engineer at Con Edison. And when you're younger, you do these visits to the office, and I just knew I was going to work for a corporation, die in that corporation, perhaps get a corner office. So I didn't really have an entrepreneurial mindset. So it had to be a paradigm shift. When I started to do the work that I was doing, corporate training and development, I knew I did it well. And I started to say to myself, like, wow, this is something that I can really take this show on the road. Of course, when you grow your business, start your business, it's a lot more than that, but that's how it started. It started with me having confidence in my ability to deliver the goods. And then I had to learn all the bumps and bruises you have to learn, of course, to to sustain yourself. A business is more, an employee tends to be focused on the work that they have to do. Then they go home. They don't have to focus on is the Con Ed bill paid, is, what's your marketing strategy necessarily. There's so much things that you have to think about more broadly. But so I had to have that paradigm shift. But I'm a lot smarter today than I was in 2002 when I started my side gig. That's now my primary gig.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. That was I've been curious about that because I talked to you when you left, but I did not know you had another business until we got deeper into our conversation.
No, I had a business that was doing well. For a lot of people, it's probably like their salary. And those were seeds that were planted a long time. So I basically just kept watering it. So I never had to do much. And that's why my mindset was, it's a side gig. It's a complement to what I'm doing, multiple streams of income. But when you and I spoke the other day, I sort of explained to you that side gig was also a safety net mentally, right? So me calling it a side gig was, if it failed, it failed, because I still have my primary job. So it's a statement that's made out of fear.
Mm.
And right, and it's not grounded in reality. But in reality, I would have loved to have grown that a lot bigger back then. It was just safer to work for a corporation.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I say something real quick?
Definitely, please.
Yeah, Steven, real quick, because pleasure to meet you, John. John just took the word. You know, they say speed, the speed of thought is 24 billion miles per second. And so just as I was thinking about that word fear, you snatched it and it came out of your mouth, out of my head. So I appreciate that. But I was going to say something about that because I thought I saw a comment where someone was mentioning about security and fear. And that's really at the root of it when you talked about the mindset. The reason a lot of us as adults have a challenge, or we're conflicted with how entrepreneurship appears to be, I think the term that I read was, is easier said than done, is because as adults we've already accumulated responsibilities and things like that, and so we have this fear of failing. We have a fear of letting our families down. We need security in terms of we got bills to pay, right? But that's why we said we have to go back to that natural state. If you recall, when we were babies crawling on the floor, we were not afraid to fail. We were not afraid to get our knees scraped. When we started riding the bike, we were not afraid to fall off the bike. And it's the same thing in the entrepreneurial arena. You're going to have to release that fear of failure because you are going to fail. You are going to have setbacks. You are going to have missteps. I'm sure, Stephen, matter of fact, everybody on this panel probably can attest to the financial hardships, maybe bankruptcies, foreclosures, all of those types of things. Every millionaire that I've interviewed, that was the path to success, right? It was, Dr. Kimbrough said, 7 years of hell and high water for him. call the row of all of those who are sleeping in their cars. And so I don't want, when we're talking about the mindset of the entrepreneur, to just, we don't want to make it seem easy, but it is a natural state of mind that we have to crash through that barrier of fear to get back to. Because as you can see now, when you're not afraid to fail or make mistakes, you can begin to create new companies like Transruptic. You can go out and start interviewing millionaires and have series and get 10,000 downloads from a book that I never wrote, right? I'm just interviewing people. I never wrote one word, but we had tens of thousands of downloads from that. But that's because we got over the fear of failing.
Definitely. Our producer's having a ball back there.
He's good.
John, you got a question from someone you already know. You've been talking with her on a regular basis, and she wants to know, what would you give? What advice would you give others who are in the same situation, making their side gig their main gig? It's a question that and something I also deal with, but I never had a side gig. You do, so please tell us.
Right. Great question. I had to ask myself, why not? Right. So I had to look at the time that I was putting in. I mean, the work that I was doing at the college. I ran a college campus. So there was no really 9 to 5. It was when I needed to be there, I was there. So whether it's 8 o'clock in the morning, Saturdays or whatever. So that's a lot of effort. And I had to say to myself, what if I put that same time and talent? Because a lot of the programs, a lot of the things that were happening was spearheaded by me. So I knew that I had the wherewithal and the ability, but I was comfortable doing it in that structure, doing it for somebody else, and then I had to say, let me shift gears because of the fact that I did have a side gig. I knew that the tons of potential that it had, I just had to say, why not pour into that? And it was just a good time. It was really a revelation for me, in all honesty, So I say to yourself, start asking yourself difficult questions, and start with the why not you.
Yeah, great question.
One thing that you said, John, that I think is really important is that you said you planted a lot of seeds. That's for me how I've grown my business. It's relationship based. It's planting of
Right.
seeds, knowing when to water them. Some seeds like sun, some seeds you got to talk to every week because they need to have that communication. But exactly knowing what you're planting and how it's going to harvest and when it harvests and paying attention to that. I think that we need to take relationships more seriously when we start to form them and build them with
Right.
people.
Mhm.
The other thing is that I don't want us to confuse fear with fear of sacrifice, right? Because yes, to start a business, to make these decisions, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. That might mean you have to start restricting what you spend because you want to be able to save this much so that you're prepared for this. So with making the step into entrepreneurship in the beginning, and sometimes during the process, there's going to be sacrifice of time, sacrifice of certain things, but you have to determine if it's worth that sacrifice, and only you can answer that question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Natalie. Definitely, all of this is what we talk about when it comes to entrepreneurial mindset. Is what we've been talking about in our Weibo workshops over a period of time. And John, I'm gonna come back to you because I do want you to talk about what your business actually do. Uh, and is which you're full time doing right now. But I just want to also say that fear is going to always be present, and it's going to be how we respond to fear is what's going to make the difference. So fear doesn't go away because the brain's number one job is to keep you safe,
Protect you.
protect you. You
Mhm.
know, I'm a long distance runner, and the brain will sacrifice itself to keep the body moving because it knows that that's the quickest way that you can get to the finish line and get nourishment. So man developed by being able to not beat up his prey, but to outrun them, to outlast them. So if you ever see a runner who's delirious, that means that their brain is actually sacrificing the sugar that it lives off of to power to power the rest of the body. So fear is going to always be present. It's what you do about the fear that is going to matter. So getting outside the comfort zone is facing fear.
Mhm.
Is pushing fear back. Starting a business is one of the most fearful things one can do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it starts that way. And I always tell people as we talk about this, create small wins. The brain loves to win. That's why
Yeah.
there's always tasks, every week in your workshop, in the workshop classes. And when we're teaching entrepreneurship, complete tasks, because when you win at those tasks, you win at those goals, the brain gets strong, and the brain, well, maybe entrepreneurship won't kill you. You know, and it starts to become your friend, and it gets on your side. And that's why, here I am, 20 plus years later, creating another company. With I can really say I'm not afraid of this company. I'm just so relaxed. It's scary. I've actually, I sit back, I'm like, this is really abnormal to me. I don't feel that tension or that tightening or that stress because I've been down this road so many times. I know I'm not going to die from it.
Yeah.
But John, I want you to tell us a little bit about what you do, and then Brother Beth, I also want you to talk about the mastermind that you do as well, so people understand the resources that's available outside of where you are right now.
Absolutely. So in 2002, I started my company called I Manage One Word Development. And at that time when I started, I was focusing on leadership development. I felt like there was such a void in leadership that if I can train leaders to be more effective, they can do better with retention. They can do better with development of their staff. So
Mhm.
fast forward to now, what I decided to do is expand that. So I see my business as a full cycle talent management service. So not only do I have a recruitment arm where I do talent acquisition in the DE&I space, I still have that leadership development and consulting, but I also added the outplacement. So even when you separate employees, you provide them with a service where they can get where they can land properly and be comfortable with their transition and knowing what to do next. So I wanted to handle that recruitment piece on the front end. I think if you hire smart, you
Mhm.
have a better talent pool that you could develop and mold into what you need to be productive, and treat people with respect on the way out. So when you're separating employees, give them those services and skills so they can land on their feet properly. So that's what I consider my business to be currently. It's a full service talent management, full cycle talent management management program.
Thank you. And he's very good at it because he's convinced my daughter uh, that you have some great pieces that we'll be adding to the Transruptic roster, how we work with our entrepreneurs.
Yeah, we're talking about, so yes, I started my business in 2002, but I've been doing this work since forever, right? So again, that's when I sort of manifest and cultivated into this structure. But what I deal with is leadership issues. What I deal with is how we as people of color present ourselves in this world that we call ours, right? How we navigate. I call it the white waters. You know, no pun intended. But how we navigate the white waters, and you know that's a talent that I've acquired. But I know that if you're cognizant and very conscious of it, you could be very intentional about how you move through these waters. Some of us do it so well we don't realize that it's become a honed skill, right? And
Yes.
Yeah.
everyone can do that. I say to myself, I don't know if it's arrogance, but I call it confidence. Not everybody can be a John Edwards unless they want to be that and unless they strive for that or what have you. Because I've learned a lot over the years, and I've been able to harness that education and give back. Maya Angelou says, when you learn, you teach. When
Mhm.
you get, you give, and I believe in that.
We got some similar things because my first mentor, Regent Adelaide Sanford, she had interviewed me one day and she said, "You're very
I
blessed."
love her voice, Stephen. I used to hear her all the time, and I was like, "This woman has a beautiful speaking voice." I know exactly who
Yes.
you're speaking with.
So she
Speaking
told me, yeah, she told me I'm highly blessed. She said, but my blessing doesn't mean anything unless I give it away.
Mm.
And that started a long journey of me figuring out how do I make that happen. And this is what we're beginning to do again. Brother Beth, I want you to talk about your business, but before you talk about your business, I just want to say this is one of the things that I want us to learn as business owners is the ability to be humble.
Mhm.
Okay, we are great at what we do. We are creative. We have all this, but it comes a time we have to learn how to step back. We can't be the most arrogant person in a room. We need to be humble, and we need to show up in such a way that people will want to work with you.
Mhm.
I always say if you want to be a millionaire, you need to be in a room with millionaires.
Mhm.
However, in order for millionaires to be accepting of you, you don't need to come in the room like you the richest guy in the room. Sometimes you really need to be humble. And in meeting Brother Bedford, I came very humbly to meet him because this brother was presenting on Fraser Net platform. And if you get to present on Fraser Net platform, you got receipts.
Right.
You got a dresser drawer full of receipts that you've accumulated because Dr. Frazier don't just let anyone on his platform.
Right.
I know that, and I know we got our good friend Dr. Stacy Grant, who's the MC of his program. She says the same thing. You don't get to be on this platform without that. So when I heard you speak, I knew that I want to work with you. And the first thing I said, I don't care who I am. I'm going to be. If I got to be, I'll help you. I'll carry your bags. That's how. And actually, I called Dr. Stacy up after we did the first transaction. Like,
Yeah.
who is this guy? And she said, she gave you the greatest of compliments. Said everything I know about Brother Bedford. He's on. He's on. He's a man of his word. And I'm like, I'm good. We good. Let's go. So tell us what you do and why what you do is so magnificent.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you for those kind words. I really do appreciate that. But the respect is mutual. I really wanted to connect with you based upon the work that you're doing right here, helping our people. So we have this common bond that kind of glued us together immediately. We have different ways of getting it out, but that mission kind of bonded us together immediately. So Dr. Stacy, I love her to death, and she speaks highly of you as well. And I love your story. Just two things that I want to say about you and even our dear friend John right here. I just love his spirit and the way that he was presenting what he does. And he mentioned the white waters. It reminds me of our friend Dr. Randall Pinkett, who's also a presenter at the Power Network Conference. He wrote a book called Black Faces and White Places. So you two need to meet, John, or you need to pick up that book, because I really do think that that's something that you could probably expound on as well. And the last thing I want to say about you, Stephen, when you said that you weren't, how relaxed you are, and you can tell. And the first thing that popped in my mind was that the experience that you have, the experience of doing what you've done for so long has given you or afforded you the opportunity not to where you're taking on this new venture, and it's done with a competency, right? You know what you're doing and you know how to build the team. And so it just creates an entirely different environment to build a business. And I really wanted to highlight that, because I think when we talk about mindset with a lot of the individuals who may be viewing us, that's one of those traits that you have to develop, the experience, right? We're looking for results, but the results come from having some form of experience, some form of competency, to where you have the confidence and you can be as calm as John, and as calm as Stephen, and as calm as Natalie, when presenting or
Oh, I was
building.
about to thank you so much, because I'm sitting here like, I want to be like you all when I grow up. So thank
No,
you.
you've
It was
already. And so that's that. I just wanted to highlight the experience that you all have, that I think is still another trait. Again, when we're talking about mindset, it's more than just the mental and emotional thing. It's these small things that John just spoke of, and the things that you spoke of, Stephen. I just wanted to highlight, because those are the things that all of the those who are striving to be entrepreneurs need to put in their toolbox to help them build their business. And as it relates to what I do, we've been on the same journey as yourself, John, helping our people, Stephen, helping our people to discover their entrepreneurial greatness. And the way that I started was, as you mentioned, Stephen, I wanted to get into rooms with those who've been there and done that. And my very first interview was with Dr. George C. Frazier for my series of conversations with Black millionaires. And I started to learn.
Wait. Please, just stop 1 second. Put that URL up, because people need to go and watch those interviews. I mean, they're powerful. Please put that up.
Yeah, actually, they can get that if you go to conversationswithblackmillionaires.com. I'll start sending you just the audio interviews, all of the old ones with me and Kathy Hughes, Les Brown. And so you'll get a lot of this, the mindset, the strategy of how to overcome and build it. Because those are the questions that I asked them. How did you build your business? What were you afraid of? Kathy Hughes even tells a story about how she used to lie to her mother to kind of, her mother was on her about getting a government job, and she had to start lying to her mother because she was sleeping on the floor of her first radio station, cooking on a hot plate. But she knew that lying to her mother, telling her that everything would be all right, that things slowly turned around. And as you alluded to earlier, Stephen, her mother was only saying, you need to give this up. You need to stop this thing and just go get a job, because she was trying to protect her. She was doing it out of love. It wasn't that she didn't want her to succeed. So those interviews are there, and that's been my work. And in that work, Stephen, and you've touched on it, we've sold courses, we've had the books and all of those different things, the speaking. But I found that working with all of these individuals, the principle that it's attributed to Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich, the power of the mastermind, right? So that power of the mastermind is something that I discovered, that every time I invested in programs and studied with the millionaires or the quote unquote gurus, they all had this mastermind that they would offer after the course, after the book, after the training. And that's where all of the transformation happened for me. That we all are exposed to, we're not void of how-to information. I mean, if you want to learn anything, all you got to do is Google it and you can find it. But what we're missing is what happened, Stephen, and you kind of touched on it, right? The one mind coming together with another mind and producing new ideas. So Stephen is the best example of that. He said that the idea for the first white paper came out of the mastermind, where we were just having these types of conversations, this type of networking, and this type of engagement with each other. And so that's been my choice for helping Black entrepreneurs now, is that I believe that, as Natalie talked about earlier, that the power is in networking and masterminding. You know stuff already. If you don't know something by now, right, with all of the books and tapes, and some of you got probably 100 downloads on your computer that you need to get that digital dust. So it's not like you don't know what to do, But now you need to get in the room with people like Stephen that have experience that could help guide you along the way. So masterminding is my choice for helping our people. So that's what I do now, is to provide masterminds for Black entrepreneurs to kind of help develop and answer questions and solve problems.
And because of Brother Bedford, the mastermind concept is going to be implemented in Transruptic. So graduates will have the opportunity to participate in a 12-month mastermind group to make certain that they can get the scale to that next level. So, Brother Bedford, there's a question up there from TD Jackson. I want you to answer that question, because I think that fits right into your way. And then also, John, I'd like for you to add your thoughts to that question as well.
What advice would you give to millennial parents and baby boomers who came from the generation of go to school and go to college and don't see the benefit of entrepreneurs? Ooh, I get a lot of them now. That's a tough one, because now you have to reinvent yourself. And as Natalie said, we're in a time now where you almost don't have a choice. You'll either reinvent yourself, or you'll put yourself in a state of continuous suffering of what's next, or what am I going to do, or you'll be frustrated. So the advice that I've been giving people is pretty much something that they already know, that they know that they want to do something else. They know that they want to reinvent themselves. They know that they want to find their true voice. And so even though they've had that experience of go to school, get good grades, work 30 to 40 years, and then retire, many of them know that that's not the truth. We even had a member in the mastermind group today, Stephen, that was talking about using that term retirement, and said that she found herself, going back to the couch and things like that. And Stephen and myself said, well, you got to change the language. Retirement is not a good word to use, because as soon as you use the term retirement and you put that out in the universe start calling for those parts back. It wants all of the parts back. So we don't want to retire. We just want to reinvent. We want to reset. We want to go to the next level, the next chapter, and the next phase. So my advice to baby boomers who know that they are in a situation where they need to do that is to begin to get into environments like this, ask the questions of people like Stephen and John, and that would begin to help you to formulate new ideas and think about what it is that you want to do.
Thank you,
Intentional
John.
education too.
Say that again, Natalie.
Intentional education. I believe in education. I believe in the foundation of putting your, I'm not saying that everybody has to go to college, but that was a big thing for me in my road to entrepreneurship. It was me committing to something. But for now I think you all should be having conversations with your kids and saying, what do you like to do? What don't you like to do? What do you think you're really good at? Oh, you like numbers? Oh, you don't have to be a financial planner. There, you could be like you could be a game statistician. There's so much things, but you have to start having those conversations with them and figure out what they like to do and what they don't. But I don't discount education. I believe in being intentional with it.
Okay, right. Thank you. John, what's your take?
I would have to agree 100%, but here's the deal. So a few years ago, I was the executive director of the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And basically those are business owners, small and large, that come together to occupy this space. What I've learned is that people actually start businesses that they're passionate about, which is great, or businesses where they feel there's a need and opportunity to grow. So it's not just about being passionate. What I would tell parents of millennial children and the children themselves is to be open to, because a lot of times, I think Brother Bedford said this, the parents are really concerned about their security and safety.
Yes.
And be open to be somewhat insecure sometimes, to pursue dreams and pursue things that you believe in. Oftentimes we coach our kids. I have 3 boys, so I'm talking from experience. I have 19-year-old twins and a 21-year-old. 2 of them are at Howard. One's a business major, and the other one, the eldest, he's studying the arts, which is so different from what I studied, right? And I'm like, arts. In my mind back here, I said, what are you going to do with that? And in my mind here, I'm like, brilliant, because there's something that you were passionate about, something that you believed in, because his mom's a judge, I'm a business person, but they were still willing, he was still willing to do his own thing. So I celebrated that.
Right.
And I believe that once you have health, strength, and the wherewithal, you're going to be okay. So I removed my fear. I stopped placing my fears on my kids, and I know that they're going to be okay.
Thank you,
Wow,
John. I had to tell my mom the same thing. I had to tell her when I started my business, I need you to release that worry because you don't think it's affecting me, but it's clouding up my energy.
Right.
well, in society, we are known to pass our fears on because we feel that's our way of protecting the tribe. So,
Mhm.
it's kind of like, you tell someone you're going in for a root canal, you tell that to 10 people, you're going to hear 9 bad experiences automatically. So those are powerful. And I actually remember coaching a young lady. She was starting a digital business and she called me up she sent me an email one day and said that she's not getting any support from her mother. She don't think her mother just wanted to go and take a job like her cousins and, be an accountant or, make 100 grand a year. And I actually called her up because I wanted to explain to her that your mother does not understand the life of an entrepreneur. And she wants what's best for you, and she's afraid that you're going to fail. You're going to have to come back home, whatever that may look like. And I think that's something that everyone who's listening who is exploring the world of entrepreneurship is that you're going to be going into territories where maybe where people will not understand what it is that you are attempting or getting ready to do. And that's going to create the fear that you have is going to also be the fear that they're going to have for you as well, because they don't know the life of entrepreneurs, and it's not their fault. So it's not about them hating on you. I always let people know that they're not hating on you.
Right.
They're really concerned in such a way that they just don't want these bad things. Because, we always remember the bad stories because the bad stories help protect you in such a way. That's how civilization began. You remember the bad things that happen so you don't duplicate it and it happens to you. Right. So, you tell someone, hey, I'm going to start a business. They could tell you every business that failed. That's ingrained. They could tell you everybody who's failed in business, and they're going to tell you that not to hate on you, but because that's just their way of how they think they're protecting you. So when you make that decision to become entrepreneur, to expand your business, understand you're going to have these conversations, and you have to learn how to deal with it. I know another young lady, she works for JetBlue, and she was getting ready to start a business, and she was doing the exit strategy with JetBlue, and her parents was hoping that JetBlue would offer her more money to stay, as opposed to celebrating her starting her own company. And I said, I asked her how did she, she found a way to handle it and deal with it. I said, please don't blame your parents. Don't go cursing them out, anything like that. Just understand that they have a fear. So fear is present in the entrepreneurial mindset. Fear is going to be present in those individuals around you. Just understand that their goal is not to hate on you, not to to dissuade you in such a way. But this is where you really want to go. You have to learn how to deal with those conversations, reach inside, find a affirmation, a mantra, something to keep you moving on. So,
I think you have to recognize when it's happening as well. I think it's almost a scarcity mindset. So
Absolutely.
they know what it's like to not have anything. So parents, their natural instinct is to protect the children, and this is how they feel that they're protecting you. But accept it for what it is, but realize that it's not like Stephen, like what you said, it's not hate. It's just their mindset. But go for what's driving you. Say, we all have that. I call it spiritual. We all have that intuitive, whatever you want to call it, but your spirit guides you. And you have to follow that.
Yeah. So I just want to say this one last thing, and we're gonna get into final thoughts because you said something very powerful. You talked about scarcity. So I want to address that. And one of the things, good. I have a thing with the Jeffersons theme song because they always talk about getting a piece of the pie. And my thing is that we became a society where we are fighting for pieces of pie, thinking that there's scarcity in the universe where really there's abundance. We don't have to go. We can all have our own pie. If you don't like pie, you can get cake. If you don't like cake, you do like my friend Cousin's Dozens. I'm gonna give him a shout out. He's been making donuts for over 20, almost 30 years. You can go get some donuts. But there's scarcity in the universe So, you know, you don't have to be, you're not the only one. If there was, I mean, there's, excuse me, there's abundance in this universe. There's not scarcity, because
Right.
there was a scarcity. There will only be but so many hairdressers, so many barbers, so many whatever, but that's not the case. So please do not think that you have to fight for a piece of the pie. You know, just go out there, live your dream, build your company, find your market. John, final words.
It's funny you say you had a problem with the Jefferson song. I had a problem with Good Time. That whole notion of keeping your head above water. I'm like, is that really living? Keeping your head above water. I mean,
Me too.
there's so much more to life,
Mm-hmm.
and find out what living means to you, find out what that means to you and act on it. So I'm not telling people that they shouldn't work for a corporation or they shouldn't work for someone else. That's also a pathway forward. But don't be afraid to find your own path, create your own path. And
Thank you.
and reach
Yes.
out to people. Like when you have shows like this, tap into them. People should be connecting to us on LinkedIn. If we're giving on a show like this, it's because we're giving people in general. Follow up with that.
Yes.
Definitely. Thank you. Brother Bedford.
Yeah, once again, thank you for having me. You and Natalie, thank you so much for having me. I'll just three quick points. When we're talking about getting over fear, that doesn't mean that you have to be reckless, right? It doesn't mean be reckless. It means, as Natalie profoundly put it, be intentional about your education. That's what makes Transruptic so important and so valuable, that it's a way for you to get educated, to make sure that you don't have to make the blunders that I made or Stephen made or anyone. Get educated properly, and then that would help you. And then the other thing with the parents and loved ones, engage them in the process. I had gotten to the point where I could start going to certain retreats, and they would encourage us, bring your spouse, bring your family to the event, so that you're coming to learn this, and then you go home by yourself. They don't know what happened in that process. And so we have to learn how to invite our parents or our loved ones into these environments with us. They may not be in the business with us, but at least they'll begin to speak the language and see what's got you all, wide-eyed at night with your bright ideas, because you've been listening to Stephen and everybody else. And then the last thing I'll say, and I think John was just talking on this, besides you and Stephen hating on a couple of my favorite 70s uh, good times, you talked about being unique. I think your uniqueness, the scripture tells us that your gift will make room for you, right? Back to what Stephen said about this universe of abundance. There's tremendous opportunity out here. And if you focus on what makes you unique, your unique talent, skills, and gifts, discover them and to develop them, then you'll find that there's an unlimited amount of resources and possibility
Mm.
for you. And you won't be clashing with anyone else. So lose competition. So many of us are competition freaked out, and that forces us to do the things that we do. But if you discover your uniqueness and don't worry about competition, there's more than enough room for you. And so again, thank you for allowing me to share this table with you today, Stephen and Natalie. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Natalie, bring us home.
Um, I think that something important that we need to acknowledge is that the brain is a muscle. And like every muscle, you got to constantly work that muscle. So you can't be motivated, inspired on Monday, and then Wednesday think that Monday it's going to last. Like it doesn't work like that. Affirmations and daily prayers, whatever you need to move you forward is a daily process. Some days you probably don't even feel like doing that process, but it's a very important process for the whole ecosystem of self to work. So I really want us to, as I'm talking to myself internally as I say this, that just remember that the brain is a muscle and you have to continuously exercise the self motivation and moving it forward. And one thing that Brother Bedford said is, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, will change every time you read it. You will find another gem. And
Yes.
to me, that is such a big, that's how I know I'm growing. I'm like, I didn't even see that there before. So
Mhm.
every time I'm seeing a different part and reading it differently and applying it differently. And that's a book you got to read every year. It speaks like where thou, for thou. So it's not like an easy, regular read, but every time I read it, I feel and see my growth. So just remember, the brain is a muscle that needs to be consistently developed.
I actually have the Think and Grow Rich app on my phone as well that reminds me to read certain passages on a daily basis. Thank you, Brother Bedford. Thank you, John Edwards, for gracing us on our inaugural first show. You brought a wealth of information. I think we helped some individuals who have been on how do they want to approach being a successful entrepreneur. Definitely my co-host Natalie. I really appreciate what you bring to the table. This was amazing. I appreciate the work you put in on the Black Sands. I think we changed some. We may help enhance some things amongst our creatives, because I do know that creative people sometimes struggle with the business side of doing things. I hope this helped you all. Understand that you could put on the business hat and get to that next level. I definitely want to thank the people behind the scenes, not really behind the scenes. Hey, Anitra, thank you. Curtis Brown. I am a fan. I got to promote. I wish I could promote all of his shows, but I know he's going to do a good job there. But Head Nurse in Charge is a web series of programs based out of Philadelphia. I learned about them a little over sometime early last year, and I just fell in love with them, what they do. What I really liked was that when I saw the first show and I saw 3 women nerds on the program, I said, wow, this is great, because I do know how women get treated in the comic book. They think like this is something that women don't know, they don't do. And Curtis did a great job of letting, saying that, yeah, women do have great, good knowledge and great opinion. And that's his team. Definitely. They produce several shows throughout the week, one on wrestling, one comes on a little later on at night, because they talk about a lot of different subjects and related to the nerd world. But I appreciate him for being a producer of this show. Is amazing to work with. We know that he was a great friend to us when we was launching the Weebo Philly cohort, and just amazing. So I thank you all. We're going to be back here on the first Thursday of March, and the topic is going to be, where's the money? It's all about finances, it's all about taxes. We're going to talk about how to find alternative funds, whether you're a startup, whether you're an existing business, so everyone don't have to worry about trying to get an interview on Shark Tank. We're going to show you some other ways of raising capital besides Shark Tank is Kickstarters. I mean, I love crowdfunding, but I think, our people have taken crowdfunding to the nth level. I mean, we crowdfund everything now. I mean, we crowdfund our vacations, we crowdfund our funerals, we crowdfund Thanksgiving dinner, It's getting out of hand. So we're gonna talk about some other ways to build capital for your business. I thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this show. I saw some of the comments. I'm glad that we was able to give you guys a great program. Once again, thank you to our guests, and I look forward to seeing you all next month. Have a healthy and great, safe week, and please read something new. Challenge yourself. I always say is, pick up a new book. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Caught in the crossfire.